if you look at cancer and how cancer forms, as I said, it's your own cells, first of all. It's not something that is coming from the outside. The second is that every cell has a certain mechanism of being born, of growth, of decay, and death. And this process is always going on in our bodies. So every cell that is created is born, it grows, it decays, and it dies. And then a new cell is born and the cycle continues. Different groups of cells have different lifespans. So some cells may have a lifespan of a few days, other cells may have lifespan of a few weeks. But it is very well known in medical terms that every single cell in our body is replenished over a period of time. Now, what happens in the case of cancer is that the regulating mechanism that regulates this process of birth, growth, decay, and death, something happens to it. And in the process of something happening to it, that process of decay and death simply does not happen. So the cells are simply being born and they are growing. And they are being born and they are growing. And so this process is called the process of cell division or cell replication. And when these cells replicate like this through this process of what is called cell doubling, so one cell becomes 2, 2 cells become 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16, 16 becomes 32, and so on and so on and so on, over a period of time, because of cell doubling and because decay and death is not taking place, it forms a bulk. And that bulk of cells, which is constantly replicating, is called a tumor. Now, what happens with a tumor is that to nourish this growth, this tumor requires fuel. So where does this tumor get its fuel from? It gets its fuel from the surrounding tissues to which it is attached. And when that nutrition is not enough, actually parts of the tumor break away and travel through the bloodstream to other sources of nutrition in the body. This is called metastasis, or this is called the spread of cancer. So you can see that just like in medical terms, if a cell's regulation is not in place and therefore the cycle of the cell is not complete, you are ending up in a process of runaway growth, uncontrolled growth, which is called a tumor. So if you extrapolate that into the larger system, whether it's the economic system or the financial system, etc., that if we make the mistaken assumption that those systems are going to be linear and not cyclical, and that there is no inbuilt mechanism of birth, growth, decay, and death, then what is likely to happen is that you are going to have a certain kind of a growth which is unregulated, uncontrolled, and that growth will now start taking away nutrition, nourishment from other parts of the environment that are required for health. And over a period of time, just like in the case of cancer, this cell's urge for immortality, in a way, ultimately leads to the death of the host. So the immortality does not actually become immortality. Ultimately, the cancer will die along with the host. What if the same thing happens in the larger system? Right? If we make the wrong assumptions, if we allow for uncontrolled growth to take place without there being a regulatory mechanism for decay and death and the cycle to restart again, could we be in a situation where actually it becomes like a tumor which eats up the nutrition from the other parts of the system, and in a strange twist of irony, both the host and the tumor will ultimately die?